Let's go. Let's get it. Let's get it. It's the most hated yet anticipated Mikey T, the movie star, smoking that big gas. Big exclusive for everybody today. Major story for everybody today. We're going to get back to our G Unit roots, you guys. Who's ready to get back to the G Unit roots tonight? Because 50 Cent has dropped a major bomb. 50 Cent has dropped a major bomb on his former artist, Young Buck. I don't think we could call it a former artist anymore, you guys. I don't think we can call Young Buck a former artist anymore because apparently, from the information that 50 Cent has released to everybody, he still has an ongoing deal, an ongoing situation with Young Buck relating to G Unit Records. Now, we're going to cover that all today. I'm going to tap into everything relating to that today, you guys. Everything relating to 50 Cent signing Young Buck to G Unit, bringing him over to G Unit for the Beg for Mercy album, as well as his first album, Cashville, straight out of Cashville, and then the second album, Buck the World. We're also going to tap into how he brought Young Buck back for the Beauty and the Beast, the EPs that were supposed to combine into an album as well. So we're going to get into all of that tonight. Got a long list of shit to talk about when it concerns Young Buck tonight, though, guys, and 50 Cent. Going to be joined by my guy SV Twizz in a few minutes. Definitely appreciate everybody pouring into the chat. What up, Stuart Harris, Street Source? What's going on, everybody? What's popping with your primo? Tonight, we're talking G Unit. G. Yeah, that's right. We're talking G Unit tonight, you guys. We got an epic story for you. Apparently, 50 Cent still has contractual status over Young Buck. Everybody out there knows that Buck has released quite a few platinum albums with G Unit. You know what I mean? Quite a few good albums with G Unit. But we thought it was done. We thought their relationship was done. Young Buck has steadily been releasing music from his Cashville Records imprint for the last few months. And, you know, I think we all thought the relationship had separated after the most recent G Unit reboot didn't take off. Scotland tapping in. Major salute to Scotland on the tap in tonight. Timestamps is in the building. Make sure you get those timestamps going. Major salute to you, brother. AP Wiz, what's going on? Appreciate everybody tapping in. We got a hell of a topic tonight. Everybody knows that there's been friction within G Unit. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knows that G Unit was one of the biggest hip hop groups to come out since the NWA. You know, 50 has touted this group as the only group to actually all come out and produce solo platinum albums. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the major facts about G Unit. Someone in the chat earlier had said something about G Unit versus the Locks. I don't know, guys. I don't think G Unit could really contend with the Locks, just to be 100 with you, after what we saw the Locks do to Dipset. You know what I'm saying? After what we saw the Locks do to Dipset, I don't think G Unit would be able to contend playing records like Poppin' Them Things or actually releasing records like, you know, I Want to Get to Know Ya, even Stunt 101. And then the whole second album that G Unit released, Terminate on Sight, which we will be getting into a little bit later. That album didn't really produce so many hits. Terminate on Sight had the one mixtape track, the Rider Part 2, and I Like the Way She Do It. Not really into either of those records. It really didn't. There was really no comparison between Beg for Mercy and Terminate on Sight. So I was really upset with that second offering from G Unit and the way that they displaced Young Buck, adding him on there as a feature. I know a lot of you probably remember that when Young Buck was taken out of G Unit and added as a feature on Terminate on Sight. Timestamp says Dipset versus G Unit is needed. I don't know. I think it would be a slaughter. No house. You know what I'm saying? G Unit versus State Property. Some people are saying, you know, we got a lot of State Property fans in here, man. I'm big on all those groups, though. I really like the idea that State Property is going to be joining Dipset and the Locks on tour, because Beans, Chris, Petey, all the guys, Neef, Freeway, they work. You know what I'm saying? They've been working. Like, I've been running in and out of Philly for so long, and Freeway's been working that whole time. Buffalo on the check-in. Major salute to Buffalo checking in tonight. For everybody just tuning in, we are covering 50 Cent exposing Young Buck's G-Unit contract. Allegedly, you guys, Young Buck still owes 2 albums. Allegedly, Young Buck still owes 2 albums to G-Unit Records at this point. So that's something we're going to take a look at, because I had heard in an interview, I thought I had heard Young Buck say that he signed back to G-Unit when they did the G-Unit relationship, when they did the G-Unit reunion, and that he signed on for the G-Unit album plus one additional solo album. Now, my reasoning for that is, okay, 50 knows what Young Buck is. 50 knows the powerhouse that Young Buck is in the South. So that's one, why he wanted to bring him back to the group. Two, why he wanted to do an additional solo album with him. You know, it's different. 50 had Kid from New Orleans. He had Yayo Banks from New York himself as well. So to have that different outside element, you know what I mean, that Southern flavor, it just adds so much to it. I mean, we all saw what the G-Unit recordings went from when it was the, you know, Yayo Banks and 50 to Banks, Buck, and 50. You know what I mean? A lot of people think it turned up more so on the industry level. Look at the records they produced, man. Look at the records they produced. In addition, Ramatic's in the building. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Ramatic's in the building. He said, in addition to $250,000. Now, the majority of you in the chat tonight know about that story. The majority of you in the chat probably know about Young Buck and his spending habits. Young Buck's spending habits were actually kind of crazy, you guys. He spent a little bit too much of what he made, and that kind of screwed him up when it came to be tax time. So apparently 50 has said it when they actually had a conversation together before. 50 has admitted to actually lending him this money so he could get out of trouble. Buck took the money. Apparently Buck hasn't paid it back. Apparently there was an IOU on that $250,000. A $250,000 doesn't come free. A $250,000 does not come free. Appreciate you, Mac G in the building. Major salute. Had to come on here and talk about this tonight because 50 apparently has the rights to release 2 more Young Buck albums, you guys. So in the future, guys, we could possibly have 2 more Young Buck albums hitting the streets to follow up what he had done on G-Unit between 2004 and 2007. Now, one of the biggest questions that I have is the timing. Young Buck's first album, 2004, perfect timing. They had released Beg for Mercy November of 2003, and then 2004, it was time for G-Unit to release their solo albums. Banks got his chance in July, and Buck got his chance in September. September 2004, Buck followed up the album. Now, I have an issue because Buck, who sold 260,000 units, 262,000 units that first week, actually had to wait 3 years. He had to wait from September of 2004 all the way to March of 2007 before he had the opportunity to release Buck the World. I think there was a lot of things going against Buck. You know, I had heard that between the first and the second albums of G-Unit, that their budgets had been sliced in half. I believe they were getting a $750,000 budget to produce these albums. I'm not sure what the budget was on the second Young Buck album and the second Lloyd Banks album, but both of those albums pretty much were cut in half when it came to sales. Young Buck dropped Buck the World almost 3 years after his multi-platinum debut album. Young Buck came back on Buck the World and actually had a feature from Linkin Park. Hell, he had features from pretty much everybody in the industry. He had Snoop, he had Young Jeezy. Everybody was jumping on Young Buck's album. 50 damn near had the king of the South, in my opinion. In my opinion, 50 Cent damn near had the king of the South, you guys, and he let him go. He let him go because he didn't force Interscope to get behind him. They had a really big star with Young Buck, even after what happened at the Vibe Awards with Dr. Dre. Everything that happened at the Vibe Awards with Dr. Dre put Buck on another level. He had a $500,000 bond. Does Buck owe any money on the $500,000 bond? No, but I guess he owes money on when dude helped him with his taxes. You know, Young Buck is a victim to his success like many in the industry. You know, a lot of people don't have the sensibility to restrain themselves. When you get an opportunity and you get a knot of money, a lot of the times you're going to buy everything in sight. I looked at what Tony Yayo did in comparison to a Young Buck back in those days, back in 06, back in 07, back in 05. In these days when Yayo came out of jail, Yayo did an interview. Yo, I got a quarter. I don't buy the biggest amounts of weed. When I get to where I'm going, I'll buy like $100 worth. Somebody like a Buck, this guy's buying out a pound. You know what I mean? Now you could say Mikey T, they were on totally different levels because Yayo had missed the beginning of G Unit actually being rich to getting out and being rich. Young Buck got to establish himself as a superstar who spends like a superstar. So you could say they're in a bit of a different element. Benjamin says Buck is still a beast. Ooh, okay. James Brown says, I say Buck should make a double album so it can stay on I don't know that whole thing of, okay, you do a double album and then that counts as two. Like, if I was a CEO, that sure as hell wouldn't work for me. I'd be like, oh, you made a double album? All right, well, 25 songs? All right, cool. That's an album. Double album, whatever. It's still an album to me if I was a CEO. Maybe it works a little bit different in the industry than that, though. Young Buck dropped a joint with Old Boy from 3 6 Mafia. Mike Savage Show, appreciate you for tapping in. Did that new album drop with Young Buck and DJ Paul? I had heard about that in recent months that Young Buck was actually beginning to create a mixtape with DJ Paul. And I thought that was dope because Buck was going back to his roots. You know what I mean? I thought that was really dope that Buck was going back to his roots on that joint because he had a prior relationship with 3 6 Mafia. I mean, they're all from Tennessee. You know what I mean? So I thought it was really dope to see Buck go back to his roots, but also producing albums like this, you got to remember who you work for. Before we go into this any further, let me bring in my co-host, my guy, SV Twizz. What's going
Mikey,
on, bro?
my God, salute, bro. What's up with you, Mikey?
Yo, man, I'm just grinding, bro.
I know that's right.
I heard the news about 50 and Young Buck, and this is something that we've known about for a few years.
Facts.
But
Shout out to
yeah.
everybody in the chat, man. What's good, y'all?
But everybody, welcome SV Twizz and y'all. Everybody put the thumbs up for SV Twizz. But so right before you jumped in here, they had mentioned Young Buck's new album with DJ Paul. 3 6 Mafia's DJ Paul. And I had said I thought that was dope that they had reconnected because it's like Buck getting back to his roots. But it's like things like that in my mind, Twizz. Buck linking up with DJ Paul, and 50's like, yo, Buck, what's going on? You owe me an album. Why isn't your album with DJ Paul coming out on G Unit?
Facts. 50 for one, 50 don't forget nothing. For two, he a businessman first and foremost. For three, once you on his shit list, you pretty much on there forever. You know what I'm saying?
Now, Twizz, we're going to get into this all. We're going to take it from the beginning. Appreciate you for joining me tonight. But if Young Buck, just to dive into it a little bit, if Young Buck knows that he owes 50 Cent 2 albums, allegedly $250,000, but I'm sure within the album releases, that's what would help pay back that money. So Buck working with DJ Paul, why not reach out to 50 Cent and be like, yo, I got a new album cooking?
Facts, because I feel like Buck was just trying to push that album out and put some money in his pocket. He probably figured 52 focused on Power Book 3 right now or something that he not paying attention.
Appreciate you, DeBurn. Appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. And we're going to take this thing right from the start now that I got my co-host SV Twizz with me, man. So Twizz, let's break this thing down, man. 50 Cent and Young Buck, these two have been, going at it for quite some time now. Before we get into everything, like, what was your first memory of actually hearing Buck going at G Unit?
Well, the first memory that I heard was definitely he was pretty much was my first memory was the phone conversation that 50 exposed. That's like the biggest thing that I remember when Buck broke out crying and things of that nature, and he was pretty much saying, you can't compare me to none of the other artists, man. If I got an issue with you, I'm not going to take it to the internet. I'm not going to go at you, basically like him. He was pretty much saying that 50, I know I owe you 300 stacks. You know what I'm saying? I know I owe you this, but this is at a time where people wasn't really recording phone calls and putting stuff out there. Like this was like years ago. So as we all know that the infamous phone conversation that they had, and then ever since then it just been like downhill for Buck. It just been getting worse and worse. Rosewood, Honorable what's up, bro? Much respect. James Brown, salute to Buffalo NY, man. We love y'all, man.
So
Salute to
you were
everybody in
saying,
here.
so you were saying pretty much since then it's just been getting worse and worse for Buck in
Worse and
relation
worse.
to music sales, in relation to arrests, even.
In relation to music sales, in relations to arrests, in relations to personal life, it just been crazy. Like it just been when you want to say fork in the road, man, he had forks in the road. You know what I mean?
Now, Twizz, I want to say the first time I actually heard about Buck going at G Unit, I was surfing the net heavy back in the day, getting ready to make my start in my career on the blogs. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I would always keep up to date on all the blogs, and I had started reading that Buck had a couple shows where he was saying FG Unit. Like he was apparently saying FG Unit in front of these different crowds. I couldn't really understand it. And it was within days. Because as you said, at this point in time, the recording of the conversations, the videos, it wasn't as crazy as it is right now. So a few days later, that video surfaced of Young Buck on tour saying FG Unit, man. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, man, and it's similar to the J Hud situation with D Block, where it's like they get into an altercation, and it's like F all y'all, you know what I mean? Which that's a lot expected into the game, but I feel like Buck being with 50 at the time when he was with 50, 50 was in the midst of becoming as powerful as he was. He wasn't the same 50 as he was when G Unit started. He became so powerful where this wasn't no regular. You can't just say nothing to 50 in this Latin, bro. Like, 50 is going to torture your career.
Twizz, man, I got to ask you, though, what do you think would possess Young Buck to actually go at 50 after everything that he's done for him? Let me set you up here. This is a guy that sat around at Cash Money with Birdman. He was rocking with Cash Money. He was rocking with 3-6 Mafia. He still has a strong relationship with DJ Paul, as we were just discussing. And he was also with Juvenile and UTP. Then Buck finally finds success with 50 and G Unit. So that's why I asked, like, Twizz, what would possess this guy to actually go at 50 after everything he's done for him?
Well, sometimes people, when they get stripped from everything, they feel like they backed in a corner and they don't know what else to do. So I think it fall with the entertainment business where he probably thought that that would be a boost to his career for him running his mouth when we all know that that wasn't the case. You know what I mean? He should have just took another path and should have been thankful for the time that he had. Like I never really understood why certain artists they get signed by a label, they might get dropped, there might be issues, and they sit around boo-hooing, bro. Grind, bro. Go on tour. Your music gonna speak for itself, man.
Yep, you're actually right about that because that's something that was said by multiple people. I think Yayo said it. Whoever goes at 50 is going to get the biggest promotion of their career. Whoever goes at 50 is going to get the biggest highlight of their career. And maybe at that point, Buck, who was doing his own touring in the South, Buck, who had really become a big name, in my opinion, I think he was thinking he could take it all on his own. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I think you might be right about that. So now let's take it all the way back, though, Twizz. Did G Unit ever actually come through Philly to the point where you got to, like see them on stage or actually doing any pop-up shops in the streets?
Well, they definitely came through Philly before, but I never witnessed them. I never like I'm not no type of guy to go sit at shows and watch rappers, but you know, 50 got love for Philly. Philly love 50, G Unit, all of that. You already know they got like Mike Knox with them and all of that. So 50 was actually trying to sign a couple artists from the DVD era once upon a time. Like, you know what I'm saying? He cool with like got a relationship with Quilly. You know what I'm saying? He even Cheek Raw and them, the Shadas, they was about to get signed to 50 Cent, but Cheek Raw and a couple members from the Shadas, they was dealing with legal issues, and you know how it go when you in and out of jail and things of that nature. But yeah, 50 definitely was well attached to Philly. Shout out to Knox too. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Tone Trump had actually explained that to me before in an interview. He was explaining that at one point, 50 Cent wanted to come to Philly. He wanted to come to Philly and do a reality TV show for the Philly artists, G Unit Philly, because of how real it is out there.
Definitely. Like, and not to give too much, but man, it was a time I was locked up, man, House of Corrections on E1. And it was two rappers on that block. Like I told you before, it was that nigga Lil and Mike Knox. And Mike Knox was telling a lot of stories about 50 where it's like they would be pulling up the passing clubs like hole in the wall Johns, and 50 would be jumping out, security trying to stop him. Like he was so down to earth. Like Knox was telling us this story about one time they was in the house, and Knox had a bunch of his homies there, and two of his homies started fighting. They was knocking stuff over and everything. 50 like, no, let him go, man. I like this shit. Like I like seeing shit like this. Like so 50 loved, you know what I'm saying, he don't got no fear in his heart. He loved that shit. Like,
damn, that's what's up, Twizz. That's what's up, man. So I think everybody knows my impression of Young Buck. We've heard me talk about Young Buck. I want to ask you, what was Philly's impression of Young Buck at this point when he was brought into G Unit? The majority of people, some people thought Buck was actually Yayo at one point because of how the foundation of G Unit was created with 50, Banks, and Yayo. But what was Philly and your impression of G Unit once Buck came onto it?
For that type of answer, I can't speak on the whole Philly, but me personally, I was never the biggest fan of Buck. It was for me, it was always 50 and Banks. I feel like they made a good group overall, but 50 and Banks, you know what I'm saying, was always my go-to guys, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Buck was different though, man. I really liked how
He
he was
was different. He added spunk
in
to
the
the group.
goal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he added spunk to the group, but people
spunk.
wasn't really, yeah, he wasn't like, talking about Buck is like talking about Freaky Zeke when we talking about group wise. Like, he added the spunk to the group,
I don't
but
know about that, bro. Freaky Zeke, major love to Freaky Zeke, but Young Buck actually, in my opinion, we'll get into it in a bit, but I think Young Buck could have been the king of the South. And I had actually taken a road trip last week, and I think a lot of people remember we were on live talking about Young Buck versus Meek Mill. So I just want to tell everybody in the live watching this, I actually did my own verses with Buck and Meek Mill. Wow.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I did. I did a little verses. And it wasn't even close.
Yeah, no comparison. It's no comparison. You know what I mean? He not, that's an easy walk for Meek right there.
Really. So let's get into it. Young Buck signs with G Unit, and they're off to the races with Beg for Mercy. That dropped in 2003, right after Get Rich or Die Trying. Then Buck's solo album, Straight Outta Cashville, followed a year later, 2004. Push Young Buck's album right ahead. What was your reaction to Young Buck kicking off his career, with so many platinum albums?
Well, my reaction to that was like he was definitely set up perfectly. I feel like he was put in a perfect position. Um, as far as we talking about G Unit, like G Unit was an army, you know what I mean? And it ain't one artist that was a part of G Unit that didn't get the chance to shine. So it was like expected at that time, man. It was like, G Unit, like at that time, early 2000s, man, it was like well expected, man. Like you said, he definitely pretty much kicked the door in, I'm talking about with his accent and everything, and but it was a good John, like definitely.
From the way that I looked at it, it seemed to me like Buck was going to be able to challenge for the King of the South crown, man. Coming in, multi-platinum Beg for Mercy group album, following it up with his own platinum album. Did you remember back on Rap City? Do you remember back on Rap City when Buck was actually going out of his way to call out Lil Wayne?
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. That was just the hungriness in them. And that you gotta think of the time and day. We talking about 106 and Park days and stuff like that. So, it was expected, but at the end of the day, they had an army. But it was no point of his career where he would have ever been able to touch Wayne.
Well, if they had continued to prosper with his career,
He still wouldn't be able to touch Wayne.
In 2004, he dropped his solo debut. In 2007, he dropped his follow-up. I just thought that was too long. We're going to get into that into a second. But with the fact that he dissed Wayne, to me, it shows you right there, Buck is combustible. He will diss you, man. He actually went at Ja Rule as well. We saw what he did at the Vibe Awards to help Dr. Dre. Needless to say, Young Buck is a real one, man.
Well, let's remember what type of person 50 is. I feel like he knew that 50 liked that type of person that can go at somebody, whether he tell him to or not. So you know what I mean? That gave him more strikes with 50 at that point in time.
You're right. Whether it's calling somebody out at the pool table on national television or
Facts.
sticking somebody with a fork at the Vibe Awards.
Facts.
Now, this is where I was going to go next, because I think that Young Buck could have been a more viable contender for that crown of King of the South that was around all these guys like Wayne, T.I., Rick Ross. Obviously, Wayne went on to a whole nother level where the King crown isn't big enough for him anymore. But I think that Buck had a chance, but the next thing we got was Buck the World, Young Buck's second album, which dropped in 2007. This is nearly 3 years. 3 years after his debut album, man. What's your thoughts on Young Buck waiting so long to actually release his second album? I think it kind of hindered his success.
Well, we got to understand how these labels work. You know what I mean? When you're not the person calling the shots, that's what happens to a lot of artists. You got some artists that can drop album after album after album because who's ever in control feels as though that they need to do that. They have, they're more determined into that artist. But at the end of the day, it wasn't his call when his album could drop.
So now that we've got that broken down, Buck released 2 solo albums on G Unit, and then things kind of went sour. The phone call that nobody could forget. You know, you had actually taken me into your thoughts on that phone call earlier. You know, something like that. I really just feel like 50 kind of ruined his artist career with that. Do you think crying on the phone, crying out to 50, did that ruin Young Buck's career?
It didn't ruin it. I feel like other things ruined his career. It put a dent. It put a dent in his career. If he would have came back properly and not be so emotional, then it could have made it a lot better at the end of the day. You know, I feel like when you get put in situations like that, it's important to vent through your music, and when you vent, it got to make sense. And when you venting about something that happened bad, not only do it got to make sense, it got to be a hit. So, you got to make sense of what you did. And right then and there, we all laugh and things like that because we like, oh, he was on the phone crying. But as a man, you can always come to a breaking point. If it's like if you talking to somebody that you feel like your homie, and you really got love for him, and you venting, you might shed a tear too. It don't mean you a sucker or nothing like that. It just means you really feel pain or whatever. You know what I mean? So I don't feel like that ended his career, but it put a dent in it. But things after that pretty much ended his career. You don't want to. What you don't want to do is you don't want to have a snowball effect. You don't want to have this issue, then that issue, then that issue. You know what I mean? So I feel like the snowball effect is what made his career the way it is.
You know, we'll dig into that in a little bit, but potentially the snowball effect is what Buck was trying to avoid by reuniting with G Unit. But
Yeah,
we go right into another problem though, because on this call, it's revealed that Buck has also been having some problems with his taxes, putting away certain money. 50 told Buck, you've got to stay close to me. One major instance that Buck actually was affected by, I want to talk about, is when G Unit was going on tour overseas. G Unit was going to go on an overseas tour, and they were going to also finish the Beg for Mercy follow-up album, Terminate on Sight. Buck was apparently on a tour with Throw Some D's on that bitch. Rich kid, rich boy, some, you know what I mean? A
yeah,
rapper.
Richard Boy.
Yeah. Buck was on a Southern tour with Rich Boy, obviously promoting what he's doing, and Throw Some D's was the biggest record out. Now, this might have been the tour where Buck said FG Unit. I'm not too sure, but I think that's one of the major instances where Buck screwed up because he missed out on a major tour in Asia that he was going to make money on, and then he also missed out on completing the second G Unit album.
Yeah, that's it. That's one of the things that put a big dent into it. Definitely. That's definitely one of the things, and that's part of the snowball effect. Because he's been caught up in so much stuff. It just get like, it get worse and worse, man.
Yeah.
To me, the biggest thing that probably hurt his career was like the little sword fighting issue he had. You know what I mean? He had the little sword fighting issue where he was on a phone call and offering money for somebody to take a video down and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And
Yep.
then it was like people like, whoa, like, you know what I mean? That's where it was like, oh man. And
Yep.
then this was after all of the beef, and that was just like, it just got crazy.
Yeah, because I was speaking earlier, Buck allegedly owes 50 Cent 2 albums right now and $250,000 from years prior. Now,
Mhm.
those 2 albums could help dig Young Buck out of debt. Young Buck going on this tour and completing the Beg for Mercy follow-up could have surely dug him out of that debt. The Beg for Mercy album moved over 3 million units. It moved 350,000 units first week, Twizz. It went battling up against the Black Album.
Damn,
Right.
that's heavy.
Yep. And I think we both know that TOS, or Terminate on Sight, didn't really compare to Beg for Mercy.
Yeah, Yeah, definitely didn't. That's a fact. And that's what it's about. It's about the quality of what you putting out. You know, let's speak on the Black Album and Hove. Regardless on how many years he been in the game, even with the 444 and all that, it's like he can switch the flow up but still have a whole different message and still catch the people attention. That's the hardest thing of being a rapper or in the music industry, that your quality has to match your career. You know what I mean? You can't be known as this and then your quality of your music is dropping. That's the worst thing you can do.
So we come to 2010, and apparently Buck signs back to G Unit. Buck signs back to G Unit for 2 albums, apparently. First of all, Twizz, what were your thoughts on the initial or the second coming of G Unit with Kid Kid?
Well, with that, like, I just feel like, man, it's all business right there. That's just how I see it, man. It wasn't really nothing, it's not really no, I don't got no major outlook on that. But that was just a business move, if you ask me. You know what I mean? Somebody seeing a potential bag, that's all I got for that one.
I mean, why do you think 50 would even entertain signing Buck back for 2 albums though, man?
Because he probably thought that he still had another push in him and he thought he could benefit from it. He wasn't doing it for the sake of Buck, unless he had people in his ear. 50 had people in his ear, like, you know what, just give him another chance. He's like, all right, cool, I'll give him a 2 album, John. If it don't meet the standards, he out of here. You know what I mean? But between them probably talking a lot behind the scenes, you know what I mean, and Buck pretty much promising of what he could do for the label. That's all I can see right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think 50 really wanted that Southern element. Like you're saying, he probably thought Buck had another run in him. Buck
True.
was Buck was really putting out a bunch of music at that time. I remember what I heard was going to be the third Young Buck album. It was actually called The Rehab. I was a little
Dang,
bit. Do you remember that title?
I don't remember that one. That's crazy.
Yep.
Dang.
So Buck completed. I think you got to know, Twizz, that Buck has completed several projects, and I would have to think that he's more than likely turned them into G Unit. And what is 50 denying these projects or something?
Yeah, probably. He probably don't, see the potential probably wasn't worth it, man. We talking about 50, 2010, he's lit. And everything after Get Rich or Die Trying, he was just climbing the ladder, climbing the ladder. Then let's not forget, you know, um, once upon a time where 50 really had Dre and M above him. So he had a certain standards to meet. You know what I mean? So he couldn't fumble the ball because they was counting on him to make the proper business decisions. You know what I mean? So I feel like 50 did what he had to do. And if he would have kept Buck around, that would have been an extra check that he would have been kicking out for nothing, truthfully.
Right. And I had first thought I'd heard Young Buck say in an interview when he went back to G Unit, he signed for a G Unit album, and then he also signed for one solo album as well. Now, 50 says he owes him 2 albums. The G Unit album never officially came out. They released 2 EPs. So I'm wondering if that could potentially be, you know what I mean? I'm wondering if that could potentially be one of the albums, whereas the other is a second solo album. Now, another note is that 50 is actually claiming that with all these releases that Buck Buck, who's releasing all this music on his own at this point on his YouTube through his own label, Cashville Records. He's 50 is saying that Young Buck is releasing G Unit intellectual property. But
Man.
it makes me think like, yo, if you keep on turning down the material, why can't he release it?
Yeah, well, that. I mean, it's true, but it's that's what only a CEO like that will understand. They play chess at the end of the day. This goes back to when the locks, was getting like pushed back and stuff from 50. You know what I mean? It's just the way of of the rich remaining rich. I'm pretty sure it's a method to his madness. You know what I mean? He know what he doing.
Right. Yep. I think we all know how 50 plays the art of war. You know what I mean?
Facts.
What you do to your enemy, you stall your enemy out, you make everybody forget about your enemy, and then it's like it
Facts.
doesn't exist anymore. That's pretty much what they've done to Young Buck, a guy who at one point sold millions of records, now on IG Live getting a 300 people, or you know what I mean? It's like it's
Facts.
ridiculous because Young Buck should have been such a bigger star, in my opinion, and he's really been hindered. He really has been hindered. But, as we discussed earlier, he could have wanted to go out on his own. Maybe he tried to do that a little bit too soon, though.
Yeah, definitely. And somebody like 50, like I said, he don't forget nothing, man. So, you know, um, 50, like you bit the hand that fed you, man. You know what I mean? Who knows? Another thing about when it come to groups and stuff, it be a lot of behind the scenes stuff that people don't even be knowing about. So 50 probably was peeping things before it even led to the first issue where Buck leaving out and all of that. You know what I'm talking about? As far as him going on stage and all, it's probably like he saw it from a mile away. And 50 just the type of person where when it come to this business stuff, he heartless, man. It ain't no heart, no feelings, no love and vibe, man. Anybody can get the treatment, man. That's why you got people like Banks and all of that. Like that's why they play the position that they play.
I asked you earlier why 50 would entertain bringing Buck back for 2 albums, but with everything that 50 put Buck through, why would Buck entertain going back to that label, in your opinion?
Because his options was tight. You know what I mean? He got a resume having like bad business, and I'm not talking about on his behalf. Earlier, you spoke on him and Juvie and all that, and we know how Juvie feel about Buck. You know what I mean? So, sometimes people they gonna see a person that's too money hungry from a mile away. You can't come in no type of industry and be money hungry. That's how people getting tied up in all these 360 deals. That's why people that's in the industry right now is doing things that's against principles and morals of being a man because all they thinking about is the money, money, money. If you know your talent and you got faith in your talent and your talent can speak for itself, that's what counts, man. That's why people can come out independent. That's why certain artists can be leaders of the group. Like 50 didn't have to really, yeah, he got the cosign from and all that, but before that, we know what 50 was doing. 50 was making sure people knew who he was. You know what I mean? You got to kick the door in, man, yourself at the end of the day. You can't be coming up there, like you just desperate for money. So I feel like he ain't have much options. So he just thought he could just jump back with G Unit, and he probably figured it would be for life. His second time going around.
Well, that brings us up to date. You said he think he could jump on G Unit and it would be G Unit for life. Well, it is G Unit until you finish these 2 albums, apparently, because
Facts.
after everything that's come out about all the embarrassing stuff about Buck, all the memes that 50's been playing into on his Instagram, 50 is still going on a public platform now and saying that Young Buck still owes him 2 albums.
Facts. That's big facts. You know what I mean? Especially when it's like, you know, we talking about like this is money involved. Let's not forget that when he came to G Unit, I'm pretty sure like it was a lot of stuff that 50 paid for, man. And I feel like a lot of rappers take things for granted. When you get in
Right.
these,
They forget
when you,
that. They forget that,
yeah,
right, Twizz? They
they
forget
do.
they forget the hotels and the clothes.
Yes, yes, the cars, the jewelry, the all of this, huh? Here go this off the records right here. Here go 20,000, huh? Here go 50,000. You know what I mean? They just feel like, yeah, I'm the shit. He's doing what he's supposed to do. No, it don't work like that. You scratch each other backs, man. That's what it's about.
Right. You said it right there. Here goes X amount of dollars off the record. But when we say $250,000, Twizz, 250,000 isn't something that anybody is just going to forget, is it?
No, it ain't nothing, man. It's not nothing nobody will forget. People ain't forgetting 50,000, let alone a quarter mil. You know what I mean? And it ain't like 50 hurting for it. But at the end of the day, business is business. He reminding Buck, don't get too comfortable. Don't get too comfortable. I see you trying to do this and that. You know, on some real rap, you got certain artists, and I don't want to say no names, that's in high position where something like that would happen, and they would have automatically took them to court. Like, yo, this guy still owe me money, man. Like, I own his soul. So 50 going about it in the way that 50 go about it.
Yeah, something like that had actually popped up with Kodak Black and Jack Boy about his name, actually. I don't want to get too much into it right now, maybe another day, you know. But
Definitely.
I really just feel like Buck going back to G Unit, that's really where he felt most at home at. You know what I mean? That's where he established the most of his history. And I think he really thought that they could recreate what they once had. When they all got back together, man, it really seemed like Buck and Banks were back to being the guys that they once were. It seemed like 50 and Yayo were having some problems, but, you know,
I I feel like rappers like Buck, man, when they come in tight situations like that, everything that's coming to them, they getting what they deserve, man. I don't feel no sympathy for no artists that we watched and we saw them on videos, and they driving Rolls Royces, they doing this and that, they pulling out bands of money, they going to strip clubs, they throwing out 30, 50,000 at strip clubs, they balling every day. I don't feel no sympathy for these guys because at the end of the day, one of the realest things is don't nothing last forever. If you get put in a position and money is coming your way, the smartest thing you can do is invest. There's plenty of artists out there that you might not hear about, but they got investments in certain places. They put other people in situations. Shout out to you, Dan Dan. You know what I'm saying? They put money in certain places. So when these guys be on here like, oh, I'm broke, I'm this and that, you know what I'm talking about? Like, that's your fault, bro. Because at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure it was plenty of people. It was plenty of people that was coming to these guys like Buck that was from their hood, and they wouldn't put them on nothing. So it come back and bite you in the behind, man.
Chinaman says, Mikey T, once the circle is broken, it will never be the same again, no matter what.
Facts. That's like, if not to keep bringing the locks up, but if they would have brought Hood back, it would have been awkward. Like, bro, you didn't drag the train. You had a lot to say, man. You know what I'm talking about? When at the end of the day, you got light shed on you, man. And he went against what he said, regardless if 50 recorded the phone call. He just had a rant like 2 years ago where he was just going at 50 crazy on the gram, like just bombing on him, bombing on him.
Now, Twizz, I want to ask you, man, in relation to Young Buck releasing a lot of music, he's released like all those 10 albums he was doing, you know what I'm talking, like 10 bricks, 10
Hmm.
whatever. Like he's released quite a bit of music. Do you think that's irresponsible knowing that he has a deal with 50 and G Unit where he has to produce two out? Shouldn't he be producing that music and sending it to 50 Cent for evaluation?
Definitely. And that's probably another thing that 50 saw through. Like, bro, you're not just gonna be doing what you want, man. Business is business, man. At the end of the day, you know what you owe me. You know what it is. Don't just put nothing out without the approval.
Yeah, exactly. It just came to a certain point where it's like Buck is doing so much. It's like, how far do you expect it to go without the machine behind it? And this is where I want to bring up uh, the fact that a few months ago, maybe a year ago, Young Buck had said, I'm doing a new album. It's going to be executive produced by, I think he said, by Dr. Dre and 50 Cent.
Dang.
Yeah, he was saying he was going off. He was saying he was having his album was gonna be executive produced by M and Dr. Dre or Dre and 50. Like, and it made all the news. You know what I
That's
mean? It
crazy.
made all the news. Uh, what did you think about that whole situation with Young Buck and Dr. Dre? Not to go too back far into the story, but I want to
Yeah.
get your opinion. Should Dr. Dre have felt entitled to do more records with Young Buck?
No, I don't think so. I don't think Buck was that important for somebody like Dre to be focused on. You know that Dre is like, he's a genius when it comes to this music stuff, bro. Like, he not worrying about the branches on a tree. He worrying about the roots of the tree. He worrying about growing the actual tree. And Buck was just a branch.
Oh, believe me, I didn't think it was true. I was like, how is Buck going to get Dre and M? And this was so many years removed from the incident at the Vibe Awards. Now, we all know Dre had little to do with G Unit albums, like the solo.
Definitely.
He had a little bit to do with it, not as much as he had to do with 50, but he had a little bit to do with it. Once the game started warring with them and G Unit went against the game, that's when Dre stepped back. Like, yo,
Definitely.
y'all don't get my talent on this shit.
Yeah, definitely, man. Like Dre is all about the bag. He been doing this. We talking about NWA Dre. Like, I'm talking about, like, he was one of the originals, especially with that little back and forth stuff. They been doing it. He worrying about making M's. He don't want to be stirred up in too much or nothing. You know what I mean? He not going to sit back and be putting that type of attention into that. It could be hot for the streets, the back and forth and all that, but what's making the M's? We try and touch a billion. You know what I mean?
Now, Twizz, I say that because it's lodged in my memory for life because Young Buck was promoting it for so long. But also, I say that because Buck, who started promoting a few months ago that he was going to work with DJ Paul, like that's a big deal to me. Working with one of the main contributors to 3-6 Mafia, that's a big deal. That's a big check. That's your album on G Unit. That's why I say it's like if you're going to go so hard and say you're doing an album with 50 and Dre, why not go just as hard when you're doing an album with 3-6 Mafia and bring that to 50's face? You bring that to 50's face, maybe you actually get Juicy J and Crunchy Black involved now.
Well, when in a situation like that, I feel like the smartest thing for Buck to do was definitely go to 50 before he did anything. Like, all right, I understand I owe you money. I want to be able to pay your money off and still push. It don't gotta be on the record. We don't gotta be buddy buddy in front of everybody. Can you at least help me set up tours? Can you at least point me in this direction? Can you? Because if I can pull this off, I'll give you 400,000. Yeah, I'll give you an extra 100,000. You gotta make it make sense, to get in position. But on top of that, the people gotta buy it too, man. The people you gotta sell them stadiums out. You gotta you have to bring something to the table because at the end of the day, now you owe this man, a man that put you in position. You want him to bend over backwards for you when he done already he got you famous, bro.
Right.
Anything you did after that, you fumbled after that.
You got to show him a reason of what you're doing. And Twizz, before you logged on here, I went off because Young Buck does show how hard he can work. Buck had Linkin Park featured on his second album. I don't get why it wouldn't have been a G Unit Linkin Park collaboration, especially after what Linkin Park did with Jay-Z. Now, this is another thing, but you would think like Young Buck would be proud to bring this in front of 50. I mean,
Definitely.
Twizz, we know what history Young Buck has with 3-6 Mafia. They had one of the biggest videos ever in the history of
Facts.
music. Stay Fly,
Facts. Facts.
Puff Puff Pass, roll that. Let's get hot. Smoke us one. Roll up out the Phantom. Can't stand them. Oh, them guns gonna come back. All I really want to
Facts.
do is smoke my weed. You know what I mean? But
Mikey T album dropping soon, y'all. I keep telling y'all, man.
yo, when you can remember some shit like that, it's like 50 and DJ Paul could have brought this album in front of so many labels, is all I'm saying, Twizz.
Yeah, they could have, but one thing is like once you, bro, it's like when you already in the game, bro. and you've been in the game for an amount of years, and you known for being with this rapper, and you was with this group. Now you got to catch the people attention on your own. So when you come into these people, it has to make a lot of sense. I mean, the music got to be impeccable, bro. It's like, do you remember when we spoke on the Black album earlier, man? It's some content out there. It's some content out there. Listen, yo, it's some content out there. Look, it's some content out there, right? And the content is with Hove creating the Black album. Bro, he got them producers in there, bro. He got Timberland in there. Like, if it ain't hitting hard, you gotta be a machine in them Jones, bro. I'm trying to
Twizz,
catch the comments you
yeah,
pinning.
my bad, Twizz. Sorry to cut you off, but the real prophecy says, Mikey, Twizz, let's be real. The Locks versus the Unit would have been a better versus. I'm gonna disagree with that. Twizz, what do you think?
The Locks would have walked G Unit down. They would have walked G Unit down, man. It would have been a better versus because of 50 being on stage. It would have just brought so much because 50 alone is a machine to himself. If 50 would have brought up some of his old mixtape stuff and all of that before, you know what I'm saying, when 50 was coming up dissing rappers and all of that, that would have been real interesting right there. Like, because, Kissing them, they was freestyling, pulling up mixtape stuff. So if 50 would have started pulling out mixtape stuff, that would have been a good joint though. It would have been, it could have been better. It depends the energy that they would have had on the stage.
Honestly, man, well, I guess I already gave my opinion on it. I don't think that G Unit could have really put up the same fight that Dipset did. I don't think records like Popping Them Things. I don't. I don't think Stunt 101. You know what I mean? I don't think I Want to Get to Know Ya. Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
I don't think they're really those records could not stand up to Locks records.
All 50 would have had to do was play the audio with him and Styles talking over the phone.
I will push your album back. Yeah. But so now that the public has been informed by 50 that Young Buck actually still owes 2 albums to the G Unit imprint, where do you think this will lead now? Where do you think it will lead? Will we get 2 more Young Buck albums on G Unit?
Probably not. I just feel like if Buck put 2 albums out, he probably still won't make the money he owed 50. Not this day and time. Not with what's going on right now in the music industry. I would have man, listen, man. I don't understand it, man. I mean, I don't understand how you can get boxed in that situation. That money don't be lasting forever, man. It don't last forever. And when you dealing with contracts, you need to understand them contracts all the way. That's the definition of signing your name on the dotted line, bro. Like, he signed his name on the dotted line. He gonna have to figure it out. He gonna have to bust some moves and get that bread up.
Yeah, I mean, if you're out there making moves like Buck is and you're collaborating with DJ Paul, it's like you're already doing the right thing. But I think so many of Buck's albums have been turned down by 50 that Buck is probably just doesn't think he'll accept anything at this point because, like I had mentioned earlier, the Rehab album, that album was actually turned in by 2008, 2009. So he was ready to go. 50 has been turning down this man's albums since 2008, 2009.
Yeah, definitely, man. That's facts. I just feel like, when it comes to Buck, like it's like over for him, man. I can't see him getting up out of nothing like right now. Like he just need to sit back and enjoy the memories, and he need to get a career or something, man. Like he need to just vanish or try to get a movie deal or something. He better try to work something else out.
Get a movie deal, get a series. Maybe it
Yeah,
might be better for him to get a series,
facts.
a book type of deal, a Netflix series, maybe.
It would make sense because it could be a South series. You know what I'm talking about? You could just do
Right.
a South joint. It could be all South vibes.
Well, it wouldn't be a Young Buck series because 50 would be all
Yeah,
over that. He'd be like,
yeah.
no.
He need to be the silent partner or something.
Jesus. That's
Se-
horrible, man.
Seriously.
It's really crazy, man. I know there's a lot of Young Buck fans in here, and I know there's a majority of 50 Cent fans here. And I guess I could say that I hope they're able to fix these issues to the point where Buck is eventually able to actually release an album on G Unit, or if we ever get the reunion G Unit album, because I have a strong suspicion that one of those albums are actually the G Unit album, man. Uh, Twizz, Twizz, do you want to offer up any more thoughts on Young Buck actually being called out for owing 52 albums now, even though Buck has pretty much released like 10 albums in the last few years?
Yeah, man, it's just 50 keeping him where he belonged, through 50 eyes at the end of the day. He felt like Buck wasn't grateful, obviously. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, it been a lot of behind, like 50 ain't about to just have anybody around him, man. Like, and his career been tarnished, not just due to 50, but to decisions he made himself, man. Like I told you before with the little sword fighting issue, he on the phone offering money just for somebody to take the video down. 50, like, bro, you still owe me money. You on the phone talking about I'll give you money to take a video down. So like, you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah, that's
it's
crazy. That's crazy because, he shouldn't have been on that phone call anyway, to get exposed like that. Uh,
facts.
Dan says that Buck claims an album is already ready. As I said earlier, Buck has never really had much of an issue completing an album. It's just completing the album to 50's standards.
Definitely. And that's where it kind of got him, you know what I'm saying, on a burner because like if he wasn't so tied up under 50 contract, he could put an album out. Like I told you before, you vent through your music. He could give his side of the story on everything in that album. That will
Well,
boost the sales right there.
Well, yeah, he releases his independent work, but the fact of the matter is, Twiz, he can't go to any major record label and get that extra push.
Yeah, yeah, he pretty much, blackballed all the way around. You know,
Yeah, you got to look at it like that. When you are in a contract, you are blackballed from signing any other maybe some type of
facts.
group contract. But Midnight, the most hated, says 50 will never let Young Buck drop them 2 albums. Jesus.
Why would he? It's like basically somebody owe you some money and it's like, yeah, I'll give you a job in my company and you can pay me back through my company, bro. No, bro, like, you know what I mean? I'm gonna keep my foot on your neck and I'm gonna torture you, man. You seen what I did to other artists. Once you on my shit list, you on there, bro.
Oh my God. Buck, Jamal Field says Buck has probably humbled himself so much. It hurts to see nobody give him a hand. I would have to imagine that, Twiz, like from the rowdy guy that Buck used to be, you know what I mean? Spending everything at his beck and call. I bet you at this point in time, he has humbled himself greatly.
Yeah, I mean, probably not. He ain't humble himself that much.
I
I
mean, he's
mean,
probably not out. I'll buy the whole bar.
oh yeah, well definitely he humbled himself on that note, but it was the time where he was ranting and going on 50, trying to say 50 on money and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
he was trolling 50. Let's not forget this, y'all. Like a year or two ago where he was just back. He was just felt like he can go off on 50. Like I said, he put himself in that position. That go for any artist, a celebrity, any entertainer, sports players that be going broke. Y'all idiots, man. Y'all be trying to have your living circumstances so high. Like I never understand, bro. Like when people get signed to something, what's the first thing a person do? They get a chain. This chain costs 50,000. I got this car right here. The car costs $250,000. You are an idiot, bro. Are you kidding me? At the beginning, You put investments in places. That money not going to last forever. So you always have something to fall back on, man. I don't care what kind of investments it is, bro, but get something that's going to always make money, something you can always go back to, especially when you're dealing with a label. No labels last forever. It's not one label that really lasts forever, and the ones that do remain together, they not super rich, man. You know what I'm saying?
Especially Twizz, especially if you don't work at making it last forever.
Exactly.
Like Buck blowing off the Asian tour. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Buck blowing up the blowing off. Did I say blowing up? I meant blowing off the Beg for Mercy follow-up album. It's like, how long do you
Exactly.
expect, the standard that you've held to be kept if you're just going to blow these things off?
Exactly.
I think you're right. They expected G Unit to last forever.
Let's look at 50, y'all. Everybody in the chat, think about 50 career. Is 50 where he at because of his music or his business decisions?
Right.
Come on, man. You got to think. You got to play chess. That's why he was able to rise so high like that and pass people that been in the industry since the 90s. And he's signing people that, like, come on, man. He's signing people that he looked up to once upon a time. People was under his label. No different than, you know what I'm saying, Jay-Z. You got to be business minded.
His business. Yep. They say right here, they agree with you. His business ethic. Business.
Facts.
Yep, exactly. 50 didn't get endorsed by BS, like how you hear about everyone making BS endorsements. You heard about 50's great endorsements, vitamin water. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Even I was gonna say when you were saying, Twizz, about you need something that makes you money. That's why 50 had Buck. That's why 50 had Banks. They were supposed to be out there making him money. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But
that's a fact. Like, I feel like Buck should have definitely, he should have made a South label. He should have hollered that 50, like, let me extend. I got some people from the South or something. If you don't want to put money other places, you got to add more fuel to the fire. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, DePlug. I agree with Twizz when Twizz says that Buck should be a silent partner. DePlug said, "How is that horrible, Mikey? You do know that silent partners get paid first and they make the most money. Then the person in the front of the crowd is the person that gave the." Yeah, exactly. I don't think it would be a bad idea for Buck to step behind the scenes, to create a hip hop group, to sign an artist, or to even make a film. You know what I mean? I was saying, or a Netflix series, Twizz. I was just saying that Buck couldn't do, I don't think Buck could do the Young Buck story at this point.
He could, but you know what? It got to be raw and uncut. I'm talking about he got to bring everything up.
50's going to be like, I'm going to take that movie now.
Yeah, he probably would, but at the end of the day, you gotta be a hustler, man. You gotta be a hustler. It's all about the business. If you ain't no hustler, you're not gonna last long, man. You're not lasting long.
Oh, damn. The plug said that all of the music that he has put out is trash.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Buck, let's call a spade, man. Buck came back with his second album and he had a song called Get Buck that was actually produced by Jazzy Faye. I was really not feeling that record. I did not like the whole atmosphere of it with the bands. You know how the Atlanta scene was doing that, all the shit with the bands at that point because of Drumline and all that. Yep. I was not feeling that, Twizz.
Yep. And that's another thing. When you're an artist, you can't have them yes men around you because somebody got to be there like, bro, that's not it. And that shows you the difference when an artist that was in a group try to go on their own to being under a structured group where you got somebody ahead of you giving you that extra push, like, no, do that like this. No, say that like this. That ain't the beat. That ain't it. You need that. You really are the most successful artists. That's what they do.
Yeah, you cannot say that all of Buck's music is trash. Go listen to his last tape. I'm not going to say his music is trash. I'm going to say I became less than interested in Buck's music. And it was right around that time when he released Get Buck is when I was like, damn, this is like the album Buck the World really impressed me. Like, you know what I mean? It straight up
Yeah,
impressed me. Like, but the single, the Buck's singles have never been the best. Let Me In, it was overshadowed by Shorty Wanna Ride. And then
definitely.
Buck the World or Get Buck, I just didn't like it. And let me even tell you this, Twizz. Listening back to Shorty Wanna Ride, there's some very questionable lyrics on that joint.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, you know, he already got the swordfish stamp. You know what I'm saying, the sword fighting stamp. So you know what I mean. It's just at the end of the day, it's like this though. But the only thing that could have saved his career was for him to be dropping all club bangers. You from the South. If it ain't getting spun in them clubs and them strip clubs and all that in the South, you could pretty much give it up. You gotta,
Y'all gonna let me shine and get mine. Yeah, I remember Let Me In very clearly. I lived it, you guys. All I'm saying is Let Me In was not the best first single. Am I wrong, Twizz?
no, that's a fact. That's a
It was
fact.
not it was not as good as Let Me In was no I'm So Fly. Let Me In
Definitely.
Let Me In was not On Fire. Let Me In was not Karma. You know what I'm saying? I'm just
Yup.
being real. Like it wasn't. Now, Shorty Wanna Ride, that had everybody. That had
Yeah,
everybody.
that John hit hard.
But he couldn't follow it up. He couldn't follow it up
Much
with
love, David. You already know.
appreciate you all. Appreciate y'all for tapping in, man. You
Salute,
know,
China, man.
we just had to show y'all that we can tap in here on any subject, really, man, whether it's a Philly topic, a New York topic, a Cali top. Like, we can really cover hip hop, man. And we definitely appreciate everybody tapping in for this full discussion tonight. Twizz,
Definitely.
man, how did you feel breaking this whole thing down, man? You know, I had sort of mentioned Young Buck a few weeks back. I think it's kind of dope. I think it's kind of dope. We got to go over his whole career tonight, pretty much.
Yeah, I know that was crazy. You definitely mentioned them, and look at what's happening now. You pretty much spoke this one into existence. And at the end of the day, man, just a message, to Buck and all the other artists. You got to make the proper moves when that bag fall your way. You have to make them proper moves, man. It's a lot of artists that we ain't hear about in years and years where they might not put no albums out, no music, but they put money in the right places. The objective is to live comfortably. You don't want to be famous and then you go back to being broke. You know what I'm talking about? You can't spend over 300 in Walmart. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you at the end of the day, man, you have to make the right decisions. So, hopefully he can work his situation out. If not, he can't cry over spilled milk. He just got to think of what he did in the past, the opportunity that he had, that millions of people would never had a chance to be on G Unit, for him to be from the South and get signed to G Unit. You know, um, yeah, that's all I got on that right there.
And I just want to add it in. Maserati Fox at one point had said, "Rest in peace, Maserati Fox." He had said, "Young Buck was so G Unit that he was like in the Matrix. He was so within the G Unit structure, compared to the other G Unit guys, that were G Unit.
Definitely,
He was so in there. It was like Buck was in the Matrix. He was the core G Unit member. You know what I'm saying?"
definitely.
Appreciate you, Bonds. Major salute, New York
Bond
and the
Simmons,
local legend. Yep.
salute Bonds.
Yep. Dan, the whole 10 series. But the 10 series, like, I think Buck was a little bit off with that series because instead of making all these series, he should have been putting together a classic album. But he was just trying to keep a buzz. I cannot fault a man for trying to keep his buzz.
It's easier said than done. If you ain't in the studio and them vibes not right, they might think it's hot, but at the end of the day,
Steve Drive actually went G Unit over the locks. But yo, I'm gonna open it up. If anybody has any questions before we get out of here tonight, I'm gonna open it up. Twizz, you got a minute for some open questions?
Definitely. Roll the questions, man. Y'all can ask whatever y'all want to ask.
Yep.
Roll them.
If y'all want to get
If
back into the G Unit versus Dipset, Bonds, I want your opinion. G Unit versus Dipset. Who would take that one, bro?
And I want to say real quick, salute to everybody. I can't see the comments unless Mikey pin them. So if y'all saying something and I ain't responding, understand. Yeah, like this right here, pin, so I can see this. We're in.
Future wifey and hubby said Buck and 50's relationship wasn't healthy. What do you think, Twizz?
Definitely wasn't healthy. It wasn't healthy. It was a roller coaster. Probably was a roller coaster before we knew it was a roller coaster. Back when they was dropping hits. That's normally how it go.
Me personally, I think it was like a little brother type of relationship. You know what I mean? I think Buck kind of looked to 50 like 50 was always going to be the guy to solve his problems. I feel like he thought he was in 50's grace. You know what I mean? To the point where this guy who's worth 5, 6, who's going to be worth 50 at one point was potentially going to be worth $1 billion. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So to be in that man's grace, you would be taken care of forever. That's kind of how I felt like Buck was looking. And yeah, when you're looking at somebody like that, that shit's not healthy, man. You should not be looking at somebody like that, man. You should really be getting in this game to make your own impact, man. And I'm not saying that's not what young Buck was doing, because he obviously was very hungry.
Facts. But you gotta have, you gotta think about what you're adding to it. Like you can't just be like, that he got the bag. You know what I mean? It don't make no sense. You can't rock like that.
Midnight, the most hated, says Boot Camp Click could have handled the locks. Twizz?
I don't feel like nobody can handle the locks. The only competitors I can see with the locks is you had to bring State Property and the Rock together. Other than that, like Style said, you had to bring Big back or something like that. To even put them in a boat. They a whole different caliber.
Jamal Fields says, do you ever get bored with today's music? So, like, I guess he's asking, do you get bored with today's music in comparison to the music that we're talking about back from 2003, 2000, 2005?
Yeah, I'm an old soul. I really don't. It's very, very few of today's music I do listen to. I don't really listen to today's music. I really, it get under my skin. Like from the era I come from, and the era that a lot of us come from, we didn't saw people that were very, very talented, that had great music, legendary albums, really lyrical. Music made sense. But nowadays, these young boys be coming out with anything. All you gotta be talking is that Murder One stuff. All you gotta do is pull out a burner with a 30 hanging out of it. And these guys is getting rich overnight. And at the end of the day, they getting rich and famous so fast they don't know what to do with it. That's why a lot of these young boys, they be getting signed and they be, getting messing their careers right up. They getting caught up in shootings and all that stuff. They only been signed for like a year, bro. Like, I can't stand today's music, man.
Man, and on that note, I'll say back in the day, I used to be so interested with going to the charts, going to the album sales, Twizz. And for a certain period of time, we lost that when sales just started dwindling so horribly. But with the internet and the streaming, people are moving units again. And it's interesting to read about albums and see and listen to different albums that moved this amount of units, or listen to albums that tanked, and just hear like what went wrong with the album. You know what I mean? The sales is kind of like an indication. But so we got another question here. This was a interesting one. Metro KMS says, who would do a versus against Gilly?
That's a steep question right there, because like, I don't know. I'll have to think for a second for
I
that.
guess
A verse.
the money one would probably be Gilly versus Cassidy because of all of their animosity, all of their built up animosity. I mean, every time Gilly does a blog on Cassidy, it does a million hits. Remember,
One thing,
they even made a T-shirt.
yeah,
What was the T-shirt say? Don't make me update my energy. Don't make me update my work or something like that.
yeah, like Gilly character is a whole. Is it? Yeah, I mean, it's a lot itself. But when it come to music wise, Gilly can't really do too much of nothing if the figures not included. It would have to be the major figures versus somebody. I
Bro,
couldn't see Gilly versing nobody like that.
don't discount that because Nori said he would bring the war report out. You know what I mean? So don't discount that. Just because we didn't see the Locks and Dipset bring out too many guests, let's not discount that. It could still happen in verses. We could still see Gilly would bring out the figures. Gilly would
Yeah,
bring out Pusha T possibly. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. You know, his music resume ain't super long like that. Yeah, man.
Bond says G Unit would be better than Dipset, but they would lose too. Oh, G Unit would be better than Dipset. Okay. Open questions right now. Open questions right now for everybody in the chat. Let me see. Where were
That's a
we at?
fact, Bond Simmons.
Lil J, what do you mean if Fox was here, 50 would have never did what he did? What do you mean? Never heard of him, man. Never heard of him. Put it in my inbox. Let me see. I'm trying to get to all the open questions. Oh, Cass got hits, but Gilly's got songs he got for Lil Wayne. But yeah, that's I said that because that's where the hype is for Gilly. The hype would be Gilly versus Cassidy.
A face-to-face battle in the small room with Cass and Gilly is what I would want to see. I wouldn't want to see hit for hit.
Miss Chocolate Divine says Styles versus Beans. You had actually said that yesterday, didn't you, Twizz?
Yeah, that's man, listen, that's two of the grimiest rappers that ever did it. That would be a great battle.
Let me see. George McCarthy says, Twizz, my beard is the same length. How long have you been growing yours? I got 1 year in.
I don't know how long I've been growing my joint, man. It's definitely longer than a year though. My joint longer than this though, but you know how it go, man. My joint, you know what I'm saying? I got years in though.
The Plug 500 says, so Mikey, do you think that 50 so you think 50 Cent to put money behind Young Buck, but Mike Knox got 2 bangers out right now? You see, I think that's the difference, Plug. I think that's the whole difference, and we kind of discussed that, Twizz. Mike Knox is making music and presenting it to 50 Cent. You know, he's trying to, it seems to me like Mike Knox wants 50 Cent or the G Unit to overlook his project, whereas Young Buck is making shit and just releasing it on a whim.
The difference between Knox and Buck is Knox not sitting around waiting for a bag from 50. He don't expect nothing from 50. He's loyal to the soil to 50. Knox is one of them guys where you come out your mouth sideways about him, he gonna punch you in the face. He ain't gonna tell 50 about it or nothing like that. So he got like a whole different level of loyalty to him. Even if it's not music involved, 50 ain't gotta back his music. That's why 50 and Knox got the relationship that they got. They got a true friendship.
Oh man, don't. He doesn't have the industry impact music wise. Yeah, we understand what you're saying there. 50 and Uncle Murda moving. Yeah, Uncle Murda's been rocking with G Unit for a while now. Cas versus
Definitely.
Corrupt. I mean, Corrupt is one of my favorite MCs of all.
Corrupt with Smoke Cast. A lot of people will smoke Cast when it comes to song for song. Cast was always to me, Cass is like a great small room rapper. Like, you know what I mean? Even with what he doing now on the URL, he got a great mouthpiece. You know what I mean? He know how to talk and make people think like, damn, you right.
Ooh,
But Cass,
this is it right here, man. That would be it. Cassidy versus Crooked Eye. I would
you
like to
talk
see that in a
song
no,
song
no, no.
battle.
Yes.
Yeah,
Acapella, back and
yeah,
forth. What how many rounds is it? 3 rounds? Give them
yeah,
5 rounds.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yep. No, oh, Moody, I just wanted to say I was not comparing Gilly's hits to Nori's hits. We were having a discussion the other day, and we will have a future discussion about Nori versus Beanie Siegel. A lot of people were saying that Nori had more mainstream hits than Beans.
Especially when you talking about Gil versus Cash, you talking about song for song or battling.
Yes, the Locks can't lose in 20 songs. The Locks cannot lose in 20 songs against G Unit. What is G Unit going to start doing? I
Facts,
don't know what you've been thinking. Don't
facts.
know what you've been drinking.
That's
But
why
you
50
be
was
out of
smart,
my
man.
mind. That ain't going to work at a verses. That song is not going to work at a verses, Twizz.
That's why 50 made the moves that he made. He knew what it was. He like, man, that shit was corny, but fuck it.
Who would be a good battle against the game? Would Cassidy be a good battle against the game?
It's it's they two completely different kind of artists.
I mean, song for song. They both got hits. They both got about 5 or 6 hits you can name.
I don't know. I don't know if I like that one, man. That joint would just be
It wouldn't
like
be
a
the best.
waste.
It would
Yeah,
be
it
like
wouldn't be the best.
it'd be an odd match, right?
It'd be like who shit cornier or something, bro. Like,
So who would you want to see against the game? Because last night you actually said 50 would decimate the game.
yeah, he would decimate the game. Um,
Could Meek go up against him?
Meek will walk game down. Meek music is got too much energy for game.
So it's got to be like Meek versus Wale or Meek versus Ross
Meek versus Ross.
or Meek versus Wale.
Yeah, cause Ross will wash Meek.
Really?
Yeah, what? Ross will wash Meek.
You okay? I don't know.
Ross will wash Meek, bro.
Meek would bring out Nicki.
Ross will bring out Nicki.
Yeah, I know. Nicki would literally just walk to the other side of the stage.
Facts. You can't overshine the master. You know what I mean? That's like Bleak battling Jay-Z.
I think game versus Beans.
That's a wasted time.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Trying to think of somebody. Game and Banks would be good.
Yeah, Game and Banks. Maybe Game and Buck could go at it.
Nah. Triple threat. Could they do a triple threat?
They could. It's possible.
Yo, everybody in the chat, could Versus do a triple threat with the 3 former G Unit members? Game and Snoop wouldn't even be. They already
No,
did.
that's match.
They already did Snoop and X. That's 2
Yeah,
legends.
Snoop. Yeah, Snoop too much of a legend for Game.
Oh, okay. Hype Man versus Pop. Who's going against Freaky? I guess it's Tony Yayo versus Freaky Zeke. Tony Yayo will win that one. No. Hold on. Let's go. It's got to be. I wanted Tony Yayo versus Jim Jones or Tony Yayo versus Freaky.
I want to see Yayo versus Jones before I would see, you know what I'm saying, Freaky and Yayo.
I need to see Freaky Zeke on another versus.
Yeah, they gonna have to do a dance battle on that joint. Who can get the loosest, bro? Because Freaky was getting loose on that joint, bro.
Yeah, Freaky's the man. Freaky's got an album. Freaky
Yeah.
got an album and he had a whole label, 730 Dips, man. Yo,
Freaky verse Bone Crusher.
nah, man. Bone Crusher with that. Yeah, Jim Jones beats Yayo. Young Buck beats Freaky. Oh, shit. But yeah, we need another producer versus battle. But y'all, I think $1 million worth of game is about to start right now. So everybody go check that out. Twizz, really appreciate you joining me tonight for this
Appreciate you, bro.
exclusive breakdown, man. I feel like we did it great. I can't wait till our next one. You want to sign us off, Twizz?
Definitely, man. This SV Twizz and Mikey T, the movie star. Y'all know how we carry it. You know what I'm saying? For all the hip hop heads, man, we love y'all. Thanks for tuning in. And it's only one way from here, y'all, and that's up.
Guys, I'm going to post Twizz's Instagram right now. Everybody can go ahead and follow SV Twizz on the gram. I got it right here. I'm going to post mine as well. We're going to give y'all a second to follow us on the gram so y'all can tap in with us on a daily basis.
Definitely tap in. We got a lot of stuff on the way. You know, maybe some of y'all in the comments, y'all could be, you know, a part of the movement that's about to happen, you know, because it's about to get real crazy. So much love and respect, man. Thanks for y'all. Thanks for tuning in, y'all.
Definitely appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. I've got SV Twizz's IG pinned up, so everybody go follow my guy. And I'm posting mine right now. So everybody that's not following me, follow me back right now, and I'll give you that immediate follow back as soon as we get off this live. Definitely appreciate everybody. So if you're not following us, guys, go ahead and follow us right now. We ain't doing shit at the moment, so we're going to get off this live and we're going to follow every single person back that follows us. Twizz,
Definitely.
before we get out of here, any new exclusive interviews or any new exclusive content on the Life with the Philly Fam channel that you want to tell everybody about?
Definitely got some content coming. Y'all know, you know what I'm saying? I got a wife and 4 kids, so I apologize for those of y'all that sub if me not dropping content, you know, every other day or nothing. But it's some more fire content on the way. It's a movie in the making about to drop. If y'all didn't see my film that's out already, Torn Apart, starring Vodka 1000 Proof, make sure y'all tune into it. Check out the YouTube channel. I got a lot of exclusive interviews. This SB Twizz, the hood blogger. I blog the trenches. I blog every part of the city. You know, we keep it to the curve, man. It's raw and uncut. Y'all know how we carry it.
Right there. The plug says, Mikey, you got to keep him on as a co-host. Y'all have really good news. Yeah, man.
I appreciate it, the plug. Appreciate it.
You're going to see a lot more videos like this where we're just breaking things down like that, you know, because there's a whole topic today that came out about Young Buck and 50 Cent. And all of us, we're all fans of those guys. We've all watched their career. You know what I mean? Our age. So we've watched their career.
Definitely.
So why not come on here and just break it all down and get our thoughts out on everything?
Facts. We talking about 106 and Park era, AJ and Free era. You know what I mean? Taking it to the roots. Big ticket in the basement.
Everybody subscribe to Twizz right now and shoot me a follow on the gram. Y'all, it was a blast tonight, man. It was a blast tonight. We will be back for another episode soon.
Make sure y'all stay tuned. We about this, John.
And if anybody is just tapping in, just rewind the joint. Me and Twizz, we pretty much salute Leo King. If you're just tapping in, just rewind the joint. And I think it was a really educational video we did tonight.
Absolutely. Y'all already know. Another barbershop convo. Y'all know how we carrying it.
Facts.